Commander Elena Santos stood motionless on the bridge of the UEA's Shadow Blade, her eyes fixed on the tactical display. The experimental stealth vessel, humanity's best-kept secret, tracked 3 massive warships of the Kraxan Empire as they pushed deeper into what they thought was undefended human space. The Kraxan had spent centuries bulldozing their way across the galaxy, subjugating or destroying any civilization they encountered. Their crystalline ships, each the size of a small city, bristled with weapon ports that glowed with barely contained energy. They expected no resistance in this sector. Intelligence suggested they considered humans to be primitive, barely capable of interstellar travel. "Status of our cloak," Elena whispered, though the enemy couldn't possibly hear them through the vacuum of space. "Holding steady, Commander," Lieutenant Wei reported from his station. "Their sensors are sweeping right through us. As far as they're concerned, we don't exist." Elena allowed herself a small smile. The Kraxans' arrogance would be their undoing. While they'd spent generations relying on brute force and intimidation, humanity had developed in secret, preparing for the day they'd inevitably encounter hostile aliens. The Shadow Blade represented the pinnacle of human ingenuity, a vessel that could bend light, gravity, and space-time itself around its hull. Its weapons weren't the crude energy projectors the Kraxan favored, but precise instruments that could target shield generators and weapon systems with surgical accuracy. "They're launching scout ships," Wei announced. "Looks like they're preparing to push toward New Eden colony." Elena's jaw tightened. New Eden was home to over 2 million civilians, farmers, teachers, families. The Kraxan wouldn't find a helpless settlement, though. They'd find humanity's teeth. "Deploy ghost drones," she ordered. "Standard spread pattern. Let's see how they handle our little surprise." Dozens of small, autonomous craft silently detached from the Shadow Blade's hull. Like their mothership, they were invisible to conventional sensors. Each carried an arsenal of electronic warfare systems and targeted weaponry. The Kraxan ships continued their advance, oblivious to the net closing around them. Elena watched as the lead vessel's captain broadcast a message on all frequencies. "Attention, human vermin. This sector now belongs to the glorious Kraxan Empire. Surrender your colonies and submit to our rule, or be eradicated." "Signal intercept complete," Wei reported with a grin. "Their command codes are ours. Shield frequencies mapped. We can take them whenever you're ready, Commander." Elena straightened her uniform. "Let's show them how primitive we really are. All drones, execute pattern Sigma. Target their primary weapon systems and engines. Disabled, not destroyed. I want survivors to carry our message back to their empire." The space around the Kraxan vessels suddenly blazed with activity as the ghost drones decloaked and struck simultaneously. Precision beams lanced out, bypassing shields calibrated against brute force attacks. Secondary explosions blossomed across the crystalline hulls as carefully targeted shots disabled key systems. The Kraxan ships tried to return fire, but their weapons couldn't track the rapidly moving drones. Their shields, designed to withstand frontal assaults, proved useless against attacks that struck from constantly shifting vectors. Within minutes, all 3 vessels were drifting powerless. Only their life support and communication systems remained functional, exactly as planned. "Open a channel," Elena commanded. The main view screen flickered to life, showing the Kraxan commander, a towering crystalline being whose faceted surface pulsed with angry red light. "Impossible," it thundered. "You are nothing but primitives." "A common misconception," Elena replied calmly. "One that has served us well. While your people focused on displays of brute force, humanity chose a different path. We developed in secret, preparing for the day we'd meet species like yours." She leaned forward slightly. "Return to your empire with this message. Human space is off limits. We've monitored your advances across the galaxy. We've studied your tactics, your technology, your weaknesses. Push further into our territory, and what happened here will seem merciful in comparison." The Kraxan commander's crystalline surface flickered with what might have been fear. "This is not over, human. You're right, Elena agreed. This is just the beginning. Whether it leads to war or understanding is up to you. Choose wisely. She signaled Wave to cut the transmission. The ghost drones recloaked and returned to their berths as the Shadow Blade prepared to escort the disabled Kraxan ships to the edge of human space. Elena knew this encounter would change everything. The galaxy's power dynamics had just shifted dramatically, but humanity was ready. They'd spent generations preparing for this moment, developing technologies and strategies that went far beyond mere military might. The real question was, were the Kraxan capable of adapting to this new reality, or would their pride drive them to destruction? The Kraxan High Command's crystalline chamber pulsed with agitation as Supreme Overlord Zixtal reviewed the defeat of their advance force. The supposedly primitive humans had disabled 3 of their most powerful warships with terrifying ease. Impossible. Zixtal's surface rippled with crimson fury. No species could develop such technology without detection. Our surveillance networks spanned the galaxy. Fleet Admiral Krivek's crystalline form dimmed cautiously. The combat logs are clear, Supreme One. Their vessels were completely invisible to our sensors. And their weapons. The Admiral's voice trailed off. Speak, Zixtal commanded. They didn't overpower our shields. They simply bypassed them completely. Analysis suggests their technology operates on principles we've never encountered. The chamber resonated with murmurs of disbelief. For 10,000 years, the Kraxan Empire had dominated through superior technology and overwhelming force. The idea that a young species had not only matched but exceeded their capabilities was incomprehensible. Gather the fleet, Zixtal ordered. All of it. We will crush these humans with such overwhelming force that none will dare challenge us again. Within days, the largest armada in Kraxan history assembled. Over 500 capital ships, their crystalline hulls forming a vast artificial constellation. They moved toward human space in attack formation, weapons charged and shields at maximum. But humanity had been watching. Aboard the UEA's Shadow Blade, Commander Elena Santos studied the tactical display with her senior staff. Right on schedule, she noted, and exactly as aggressive as we predicted. All Ghost Fleet units report ready, Lieutenant Wei confirmed. Quantum entanglement network is stable. The Kraxan won't know what hit them. Elena nodded. The Ghost Fleet represented humanity's true military doctrine, not massive warships, but thousands of autonomous vessels linked through quantum computers. Each was a fraction of the size of a Kraxan ship, but carried technologies that had been refined through centuries of secret development. Execute Operation Checkmate, Elena ordered. Across human space, automated shipyards that had been hidden in dimensional pockets emerged. Thousands of ghost ships shimmered into existence, their neural networks coordinating through quantum entanglement. Unlike traditional fleet actions, there was no lag in communication, no delay in tactical response. They moved as a single organism. The Kraxan fleet detected nothing until the ghost ships were already among them. Energy beams that ignored shields sliced through weapon systems. Temporal disruptors created microsecond time dilations, causing Kraxan targeting systems to miss consistently. Quantum torpedoes phased through hull plating to detonate inside engine compartments. Status report. Zixtal demanded as his flagship shuddered under repeated hits. We've lost weapons on 60% of the fleet, his tactical officer reported, crystal surface pulsing with panic. They're ships. They're everywhere and nowhere. We can't track them, can't target them. Our entire command network is being rewritten by their cyber attacks. On the Shadow Blade's bridge, Elena watched the systematic dismantling of the galaxy's most powerful military force. Signal the Ghost Fleet, disable only. No unnecessary casualties. Commander, Wei called out, we're detecting quantum fluctuations. Massive ones. The Kraxan are attempting an emergency mass jump. Elena smiled grimly. Let them go. They've learned what they needed to learn. The surviving Kraxan ships vanished in a flash of quantum energy, leaving behind their crippled companions. The message was clear. Humanity wasn't just capable of defending itself, it had been holding back. In the crystalline chamber of the High Command, Zixtal faced an unprecedented crisis. The Kraxan Empire had suffered its first major defeat in 10 millennia. But more disturbing than the military loss was the revelation that followed. Analysis of the battle data showed that the human Ghost Fleet had operated with precision far beyond normal combat parameters. They hadn't simply won, they had controlled every aspect of the engagement, disabling the exact systems they chose while leaving others intact. The humans hadn't just beaten them. They had toyed with them. The implications were staggering. How long had humanity possessed these capabilities? What other technologies did they have hidden away? And most importantly, what were their true intentions? The quantum encrypted transmission arrived in the Kraxan High Command exactly when humanity intended it to. Its contents were deceptively simple, detailed schematics of a small portion of human defensive technology, along with an invitation to diplomatic talks. Supreme Overlord Zixtal studied the data with his best scientists, his crystalline form shifting through spectrums of doubt and curiosity. "Confirm these specifications," he ordered. Chief Scientist Nexfor's analysis was troubling. "The technology is genuine, supreme one. But these schematics, they're decades old, obsolete by their standards. They're playing with us," Fleet Admiral Krivek observed, "showing us enough to demonstrate their superiority, while revealing nothing of their true capabilities." The Kraxan's intelligence networks, once considered the galaxy's finest, were in chaos. Every probe into human space returned with different, often contradictory information. Manufacturing centers appeared and disappeared. Fleet movements defied logical patterns. Even their civilian communications seemed designed to confuse and misdirect. Aboard the Shadow Blade, Commander Elena Santos reviewed the Kraxan's desperate intelligence-gathering attempts with satisfaction. "Operation Maze is proceeding as planned," she noted to her assembled staff. "Their entire strategic analysis department is chasing shadows. The quantum decoy networks are performing perfectly," Lieutenant Wei reported. "Every time they think they found a pattern, we shift the entire grid. They're mapping defenses that don't exist while missing the ones that do." Dr. Sarah Chen, the ship's chief psychologist, smiled slightly. "The Kraxan evolved from crystalline life forms. Their thought patterns are naturally rigid, structured. This level of strategic fluidity doesn't just confuse them. It fundamentally challenges their understanding of reality." Elena nodded. Humanity's greatest weapon had always been their adaptability, their ability to think in ways other species couldn't predict. The Kraxan's crystalline nature made them incredibly advanced, but also predictable. They couldn't comprehend a species that thrived on chaos and uncertainty. "They've launched another probe network," Wei announced. "This one's more sophisticated. Quantum-shielded, multiphasic sensors. Let them find manufacturing Complex 7, Elena ordered. "It's time for the next phase." The Kraxan probe network discovered exactly what humanity wanted them to. A massive production facility, churning out advanced warships. The facility was real, but its purpose wasn't military. It was psychological warfare in physical form. In the High Command chamber, Zixtal reviewed the probe's findings with growing unease. "These production numbers are impossible. No species could build ships at this rate. Unless," Krivek suggested, "they want us to think they can." The revelation hit the Kraxan leadership like a quantum torpedo. Every piece of intelligence they'd gathered, every scrap of data they'd analyzed, all of it could be part of an elaborate deception, or it could be completely genuine. There was no way to know. "Their message," Nex4 said quietly, "the invitation to talks. What if that's the only genuine communication they sent?" The chamber resonated with uncomfortable harmonics. The Kraxan Empire faced an enemy that didn't just defeat them militarily. They'd undermined the very foundations of how the Kraxan gathered and analyzed intelligence. In her quarters aboard the Shadow Blade, Elena reviewed the latest psychological analysis of the Kraxan leadership. Their rigid, crystalline minds were being forced to adapt, to consider possibilities that went against their very nature. It was either break or evolve. They're calling an emergency session of their high command, Wei reported. All indications suggest they're seriously considering our invitation to diplomatic talks. Elena allowed herself a small smile. Sometimes, the greatest victories weren't won through superior firepower, but through forcing your opponent to see the world differently. The Kraxen were beginning to understand that they faced a choice: adapt to a universe that didn't fit their crystalline logic, or shatter against it. The neutral meeting ground chosen for the diplomatic talks was a space station orbiting a dying star, a reminder of the impermanence that the crystalline Kraxen found so difficult to accept. The station itself was a marvel of human engineering, its structure constantly shifting and reforming through quantum manipulation, never keeping the same shape for more than a few minutes. Commander Elena Santos stood at the observation window, watching the Kraxen diplomatic vessel approach. Its crystalline structure caught the red light of the dying star, creating prismatic patterns that would have been beautiful if they weren't so rigid and predictable. "Their ship is maintaining its distance," Lieutenant Wei reported, running continuous scans. "They still don't trust us." "They shouldn't," Elena replied. "Trust has to be earned. Today we'll see if they're capable of earning it." The Kraxen delegation emerged from their ship, Supreme Overlord Zixtal himself, along with Fleet Admiral Krivek and Chief Scientist Nexvor. Their crystalline forms pulsed with barely contained tension as they encountered the station's shifting architecture. "Welcome to Unity Station," Elena greeted them. "I trust you find the accommodations interesting." This station, Zixtal's voice resonated with barely contained distress. "It defies structural logic. Why would you build something so unstable?" "Because stability isn't always strength," Elena replied. "Sometimes the ability to change, to adapt, is what truly makes something endure." She gestured to the conference room. "Shall we begin?" The room's walls were transparent, offering a clear view of both the dying star and the vast emptiness of space beyond. As they sat down, Elena activated a holographic display showing the known galaxy. "Your empire," she began, highlighting the vast territory the Kraxen controlled, "was built on the assumption that technological superiority guarantees dominance. That assumption was valid. Until you met us. You think you've won." Zixtal's surface flickered with anger. "Our empire spans thousands of systems. We have resources you cannot imagine." "And yet," Elena countered, "a single human vessel disabled 3 of your most powerful warships. A small fraction of our ghost fleet scattered the largest armada you've ever assembled. Your intelligence networks are in chaos, your strategic doctrine is in shambles, and your leadership is questioning everything they thought they knew about warfare." She leaned forward. "But we haven't shown you our true capabilities. What you've seen, the ghost fleet, the quantum technology, the dimensional engineering, that's what we're willing to use, not what we're capable of." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. The Kraxen leader's crystalline surfaces dimmed with realization. "What do you want?" Krivek asked finally. "Partnership," Elena replied, surprising them. "Your empire has existed for 10,000 years. You've mastered technologies we're only beginning to understand. But you've stagnated, become rigid in your thinking, predictable in your actions." She gestured to the dying star outside. "That star represents your empire's future if you continue on your current path. Impressive, powerful, but slowly burning out, unable to adapt to a changing galaxy. And you believe you can prevent this?" Nexvor asked, scientific curiosity overriding cultural arrogance. "We believe we can help each other," Elena corrected. "Your stability combined with our adaptability. Your experience with our innovation. But first, you need to make a choice." She activated another hologram, showing the full extent of human space, far larger than the Kraxen had suspected. "You can accept that the galaxy has changed, that there are powers and principles you don't yet understand, that sometimes the greatest strength lies in admitting what you don't know." The hologram shifted, showing the devastating power of humanity's ghost fleet. Or you can cling to your old beliefs, try to maintain your empire through force alone, and watch it shatter against something you never saw coming. Zixtal's crystalline form pulsed with complex emotions. 10,000 years of history, of absolute certainty in Kraxan superiority, weighed against the undeniable evidence before him. The choice, Elena concluded, is yours. But choose carefully. This offer won't come twice. 1 year after the historic meeting at Unity Station, Commander Elena Santos stood on the observation deck of the newly constructed Harmony Institute, a joint human-Kraxan research facility that symbolized the unprecedented partnership between the two species. The facility's architecture was a perfect blend of crystalline precision and fluid adaptability, constantly shifting while maintaining its core structure. The latest test results are in, Lieutenant Wei reported, now serving as Chief Liaison Officer for Joint Operations. The Kraxan's crystalline computing matrices combined with our quantum algorithms have exceeded all expectations. We're seeing processing capabilities that neither species thought possible. Elena nodded, watching as a group of human scientists worked alongside their crystalline counterparts. The sight still amazed her. The rigid, structured Kraxan learning to embrace uncertainty, while humans learn to appreciate the value of established patterns. Supreme Overlord Zixtal, his crystalline form now displaying previously impossible color patterns learned from human art, approached the observation window. A year ago, I would have considered this facility an abomination, he admitted. Now I see it as the future. Change isn't easy, Elena acknowledged, especially for a species that values permanence as much as yours does. We thought permanence was strength, Zixtal replied, his voice carrying new harmonics of understanding. We were wrong. True strength lies in the ability to change without losing one's essential nature. The evidence of this transformation was visible throughout known space. The Kraxan Empire, once a force of rigid conquest, was evolving. Their ships now incorporated human adaptive technologies, while human vessels benefited from crystalline precision engineering. But the most profound changes were cultural. The Joint Defense Fleet is ready for its first patrol, Fleet Admiral Krivek announced, entering the observation deck. The newly formed fleet combined Kraxan capital ships with human Ghost Fleet technology, creating a defensive force unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. And the diplomatic courts? Elena asked. The first joint ambassadorial teams are already reaching out to other species, Krivek confirmed. Many are intrigued by our partnership. The concept of former adversaries achieving synthesis rather than dominance is novel in galactic politics. Chief Scientist Nexvor, who had become one of the strongest advocates for human-Kraxan cooperation, joined them at the window. We've begun identifying other species who might benefit from this approach. The Quantum Collective in the Carina Arm shows particular promise. Elena smiled, remembering the tense confrontation that had started it all. The Kraxan had indeed chosen wisely, but so had humanity. Instead of crushing their opponents, they had helped them evolve, creating an ally far more valuable than any conquered territory. There are still challenges, Zixtal noted, his crystalline surface showing the new patterns that indicated deep thought, a capacity for uncertainty that would have been unthinkable a year ago. Some among both our peoples resist this change. There always will be, Elena agreed. But look at what we've achieved already. Your empire's stagnation has been reversed. Our tendency toward chaos has been tempered by your influence. We're both stronger than we were alone. The facility's quantum sensors suddenly detected an unusual phenomenon in nearby space. Both humans and Kraxan rushed to their stations, working in seamless coordination that would have seemed impossible months ago. Unknown energy signature, Wei reported. Unlike anything in either of our databases. New contact, Krivek added, their crystalline sensors providing additional data. Definitely artificial, but the configuration. They paused, showing very human uncertainty. Elena and Zixtal shared a look of understanding. Once, the Kraxen would have seen a potential threat to be eliminated. Humans might have seen a puzzle to be solved regardless of risk. Together, they saw an opportunity. Send a joint first contact team, Elena suggested. Agreed. Zixtal's surface pulsed with anticipation. Let's show the galaxy what adaptation and stability can achieve together. As the joint team prepared to investigate the anomaly, Elena reflected on how far both species had come. The galaxy was changing, becoming more complex and interconnected than ever before. But now, instead of facing these changes alone, humanity and the Kraxen faced them together, each making the other stronger, each learning from the other's nature. The future was uncertain, just as it should be, but they would face it with both the adaptability to embrace change and the stability to weather any storm. It wasn't just survival of the fittest anymore. It was survival through synthesis, through the ability to learn and grow together. And that, Elena realized, was humanity's greatest victory, not defeating an enemy, but creating a future where former adversaries could become something greater than either could have been alone.